Hello, everybody on YouTube, NFL YouTube prognosticators, and NFL fans everywhere. This is Andrew Warren, back once again, giving you my NFL Top 10 Divisional Playoff round games. So this is gonna continue with my NFL Top 10 playoff conclusions and starting up. If you want to check out my Top 10 wild card, it's already posted up there. I mean, it's a really nice split it in half. I might do the same with that with the divisional round. So. And of course, no NFL latest news at this point right now. So at that point, something fell. I don't know. I'm not going to deal with it later. But anyways, non-football news right now from the NBA. Cleveland Cavaliers fired David Blatt all of a sudden, as they were doing really good in the Eastern Conference, and they were probably in the top 3 in the NBA right now. And all of a sudden, David Blatt gets fired. It was probably LeBron James' idea to fire him in the first place, and they'll probably get their assistant coach to take over. I think that's what happened, and that happened to be the case, but I don't know. Even though it's not football news, what do you guys think about the David Blatt firing? So, that's all I gotta ask you about that. But, anyways, and it's official. The bet is on for tomorrow for the conference championship game against my New England Patriots and the Denver Broncos with Billy B and I. He made a conclusion on that. I'll put that video link down below, see what you have to say about that. So, it's going to be a fun Super Bowl pick. I'll tell you that one right now. This is going to be a fun Super Bowl prediction on that, no matter who wins or loses, so I don't care. So, this bet is going to be worth it no matter what. I'm looking forward to it. So, that's all I have to say about Billy B with that one. Anyways, Billy B's not my shout-out for the week, but for this one, but still check out his videos anyway. He's a really good guy, really good prognosticator. You'll like his videos a lot, so. And of course, he really had something to say with me about that, which with The Rock and Kevin Nash on there, so that's pretty good, pretty funny. I had a good laugh about that. So, but anyways, stay tuned for the Super Bowl picks with that after my top 10 AFC championship, top 10 championship games, and my top 10 Super Bowls of all time. So stay tuned for the conference championship games and the Super Bowl top 10s with that. Before I do my Super Bowl pick, and we'll go for that. But anyways, now that we got everything out of there, make sure to vote for me for my Week 8 Halloween edition for my video, because that video is being nominated for the year for the Geo Knows Awards. I'll put that video down below and the Geo Knows website where you can vote. So please vote for me for my Carver the Killer Clown costume. It'd be much appreciated for that. So, and I'll let you know what the results are. So, now we're going on to the top 10 NFL divisional round games of all time. Starting off with number 10, the Colts and Steelers, the missed opportunity, I call it. This is a game, it's a back and forth game where Pittsburgh's going for their 5th Super Bowl title. Their first one since '79. But Peyton Manning and the Colts of that era, they were probably happy to get out of the loop for the Patriots at the time, beating him the past few years, and they get the divisional round game at that point. This game is best known capitalizing for Jerome Bettis' fumble, and the Colts recovered, and Mike Vanderjagt missed a field goal. This was boldly remembered from Mike Vanderjagt missing that missed opportunity for the field goal, and it just went downhill from there for Mike Vanderjagt. We haven't heard from him since then. Yeah, not much story other than that, though. But in weird case scenario is Pittsburgh would go on to win the Super Bowl against Seattle, which that was a controversial call in that point. So that happened to be like 3 missed bad calls for Pittsburgh at that point, but for Seattle at that point against Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh ended up winning the game anyways, and for that point, the Colts would go 1 year later, end up beating the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl against Chicago, going past against my New England Patriots for the championship game. So maybe that's a little preview. Maybe that could be a top 10 AFC or NFC championship game of all time, but we'll see how I feel about it. So, but that's my number 10 conclusion. And my number 9, the 49ers and the Saints, the catch 3. Well, this game is both remembered for the 49ers going to the playoffs for the first time since 2002, and the Saints who are having really good success at that point. Up until this is after the Bountygate scandal, for they did. But But this was Alex Smith versus Vernon Davis with the game-winning drive to win the game, to send the 49ers in the conference championship game, and they would end up losing to the Giants from that point. But this is remembered as Jim Harbaugh's first year as head coach in the 49ers, and the 49ers thought they were going to get a great success in the NFL for that, but that didn't turn out to be that way. But that game is mostly remembered being the start, at least a little bit of success for the 49ers at that point, for that Vernon Davis game-winning touchdown pass. And Vernon Davis, he was a big emotional on that, and he's still a 49er to me, in my opinion. I don't care what anyone says about it, but that happened to be that. So that will conclude that. And number 8, the Bears and the Eagles, known as the Fog Bowl, on that one, 1988. Yes, this was a battle between two of the former coaches who coached together in the 85 season. Buddy Ryan for the Philadelphia Eagles, who was a defensive coordinator for the Bears at that time, and now Mike Ditka for the Chicago Bears. This was pretty much a little revenge game because they both hated each other at the time. Nobody knew what would be success for that point, but there you go. But this one, when Philadelphia was really good at that point, they had an opportunity to knock out the Chicago Bears at that point, but that didn't turn out to be the case. It was about to be a good game, and all of a sudden the fog came in out of Lake Michigan, and all of a sudden the fog would come into play. Nobody couldn't see anything, but they were forced to use the run game because the wide receivers couldn't see what the ball was throwing to. So it was a back and forth game. It started off with Chicago going for the touchdown, and Philadelphia would answer back on a field goal for a couple of drives later. And in the second half, they would end up going to make it 17-9 at halftime, and then they ended up going to kick field goals in the second half at that point. But that was basically remembered being a bad weather game for being all that fog bowl in that point. And Buddy Ryan and the Eagles would end up getting heartbroken out of that if they would have gone to the Super Bowl if it wasn't for that game. Probably, but But they had a big shot at beating Chicago, and they ended up doing it because of the fog. So that game was broken. Remember having the fog coming right in the picture of that. Next is number 7, Vikings and Cowboys, the Hail Mary game, Staubach to Pearson. Well, you guys are probably know this is probably the game when the Hail Mary game had began and stuff like that, with Roger Staubach beating Gio knows' Minnesota Vikings in that game in 75 or something. And I think the Vikings were heavily favored in that game because they had a lot of Super Bowl success at the time in the 70s. So at that point, that they were starting to get into the Cowboys didn't know who they were yet. They were starting to get going in rhythm. And at some point, the Cowboys would end up going to I think that was the year that Super Bowl 13, I think, or no, was it something like that? I think they were going to a Super Bowl at that point and ended up losing to Pittsburgh at that point. I think it's that season, like maybe the following season before that, but a few seasons. No, I think it was a few seasons before that. So I take it back. My bad. But anyways, this game was boldly remembered for having that Hail Mary game, but Drew Pearson was held and interfered in that, and the refs didn't see it, and the Vikings were calling for that, but that didn't turn out to be that way. But anyway, though, the Cowboys were having a little bit of success in the Super Bowl. I do believe and I think they end up losing to Pittsburgh at that season. I thought they did, but But anyways, they would get a little success out of that, and they finally at that point in time. That was the beginning of the end for the Minnesota Vikings at that point. They were starting to go a little bit downhill with Frank Tarkenton and Bud Grant in that era. They tried to get it back in the Super Bowl, which I think they did, and they ended up losing to Pittsburgh in that one too. So at that point, so in Minnesota would probably not redeem themselves after the Super Bowl. They would not make it back to the Super Bowl since that point after beating Pittsburgh. But that was a game turning point at that point, that the downfall to the Minnesota Vikings and the rise of the Dallas Cowboys at that point. So that game was boldly remembered for that, and so be it. And number 6, the Dolphins and the Raiders, a sea of hands. Yep, yeah, this was a game with boldly remembered when Ken Stabler knocking into his running back. I can't think of his name or not. With 3 Miami defenders, he didn't really have the good hands, and he caught it right into the end zone. Which was still an amazing catch, though. I mean, who would catch it with 3 defenders at that point? But that was pretty much boldly remembered for that. And the Dolphins to that day, their dominance of the '70s was officially done at that point because they had great success in the '70s, especially the unbeaten season in '72. And they had in '73 they ended up winning, winning that Super Bowl again, and of course they lost the Super Bowl the following year in 1971, losing to Dallas. But that game right there in '74, that was that point in era. That was between the Raiders and the Dolphins. They were one of the 2 best teams in the '70s before Pittsburgh too. But at that point, the Dolphins were going into a great success too, but that dominance came to an end on that day. Most of it, but at that point, the Raiders at '74, they would probably go meet Pittsburgh in the championship game and lose again to Pittsburgh. But what are you gonna do with that one at that point? But I wasn't born in the '70s, so I'm not gonna say anything about that. But in this case scenario, that everyone still talks about this. But the running back who caught it with 3 defenders and really had the best hands in the NFL at the time. And Ken Stabler, all he had to do was just try to throw the game-winning pass, and that game concluded out of that. Miami still think to this day they should have got that ball, but that didn't turn out to be the case on that. And that will conclude the top 5 on that. Oh, before I go, big shout out to Mason Talks. I forgot to give a shout out earlier for that. Check out Mason Talks. He's a really good prognosticator. He's really good. So, tell him I said you. He's a really good prognosticator. He's a really good guy, and he makes great picks. So, anyways, that's my shout out for this video. So I will be back with you for the top 5 for the divisional round games, and I'll see you then.